Hey everybody, Thor here. Think of the last time your mother gave you a kiss. Then think of the last time she gave your dad a blowjob and follow along with me as we explore the mind of an idiot. This is documentation of a short exchange of messages between me and a fellow by the name of Baba Zlatka on your screen there. I posted the transcript of the messages in their entirety with no omissions unless otherwise noted on forums.leagueofreason.co.uk, a website I very strongly recommend checking out, especially for those of you who are free thinkers. Here we go. It begins with his message to me. Hi! I saw several of your videos concerning Christianity and the existence of God. In some, you sound like an intelligent and reasonable person, but in others, not so much. You may think you know everything, but don't, and neither does science. Have you ever considered the possibility that you may be wrong? So for your own sake, and the sake of the people you may be driving away from God, please think twice before you make another video to make fun of God. My response to him is a bit lengthy, so I'll try and blow through it as quickly as possible. I don't claim to know everything, and neither does science. But let me make something deadly clear to you. Not knowing the cause of something does not mean that God did it. Have you ever considered the possibility that you may be wrong? Pascal's wager, right? Here's the problem with that. Yeah, if I'm wrong, then I lived happily for one lifetime, but will suffer for eternity. However, if you're wrong, you'll have wasted the only life you'll ever get. But here's the problem with the whole idea. You're assuming that there are only two possibilities. Either there is a God, or there is no God. You're kind of right, except that in most religions simply believing in God doesn't cut it. You have to believe in their God. And there are thousands of religions and hundreds of thousands of different gods, probably more. So what seems more likely? Option 1, God A. Option 2, God B. Option 3, God C. Option 4, God D. Option 5, God E. And so on. Or option 203,764,901, no God at all. We could pick a god at random, since there's really very little distinguishing most of them from one another, and we wouldn't know what to look for in a true god anyway. But then we would have a 99.999999999999999% chance of wasting the one chance that we'll ever have to live in the way we want. Whether there's a God who will punish us afterward or no God at all, this is the time we get on earth, and it's the only time we're ever going to be free to choose how we live, and whether we're having a good life or a boring one lived for someone else who may or may not exist. So the question becomes, how do we determine whether something is true or false? Well, that seems pretty simple. When someone makes a claim in the positive, i.e., Bigfoot is real, I saw the Loch Ness Monster, I was abducted by aliens, or God healed my wart, the thing that we look for is whether or not there is evidence for that claim, and when there is evidence, such as videos of Bigfoot, Nessie, and alien spacecraft, which we have, by the way, we compare that evidence to demonstrable reality and see if there's enough of it, or if it's persuasive enough, to show that there's really a good chance of this thing having existed or happening or whatever. In the case of God, someone saying to me, I was in a car accident, and I'm not dead. Therefore, God saved me. Therefore, God is real, is not so persuasive. How does that person know that God saved them? How do they know which God saved them? What made them special enough to be saved in the first place? And how do they know it wasn't all just a hallucination? And so on. Finally, as for this business of you essentially threatening me with hell in order to scare me off YouTube, go fuck yourself. As always, I welcome you to have an open debate with me, and just so you know, I will be making a video about our little exchange here, so if you refuse to debate me and continue to make ridiculous and faulty claims, you will look like a giant retarded vagina. Thanks, and have a stupendous day. Now, about a day or a day and a half after that, he sent me a reply. Here it is in its entirety, but I do respond point by point, so I'll blow through the entire message quickly so that I can get to my rebuttal to each individual claim. His message is, Yes, I've considered the possibility that I may be wrong. However, the evidence in the physical world begs to differ. God exists not because I have no explanation for some things, but because I know the cause. I'm not going to tell you that science is wrong. On the contrary, science is always right. People who interpret it, however, can be wrong. Are you afraid of wasting the only life you may have, or afraid of being responsible to someone? There are many religions and many gods, but only one is the true God. How do we know who the real God is? I claim it is a Judeo-Christian God, and the Bible is the ultimate evidence for that. I will be glad to defend my claim should you decide to argue further. Good, let's debate! Your logic is perfectly reasonable when it comes to proving the existence of Bigfoot or Nessie, but how can you apply the same logic to a being that has no physical or spatial features? As human, our minds and senses are limited to the physical world, and there's no way for us to know who or what is beyond it. I'm not trying to threaten you with hell, haha. As an atheist, you obviously do not believe in God and therefore in hell, so trying to scare you is the last thing in my mind. I believe that such debated are very healthy and will help people to make an informed decision. Feel free to make as many videos as you like. I will continue to make claims, and you have yet to prove that they are ridiculous and faulty. You have a great day, too. And I respond point by point. Here we go, beginning with his claim. Yes, I've considered the possibility that I may be wrong. However, the evidence in the physical world beg to differ. My response. Okay, go ahead and present your evidence so that I can show you what a buffoon you are for believing it without doing any of your own research. Or you could simply engage me in a debate, and I would gladly hear your evidence there as well. His claim. God exists, not because I have no explanation for some things, but because I know the cause. My response. A man sitting in an insane asylum, knows that there are gnomes in his underpants, just like you know the cause. There is no demonstrable evidence for either claim, and so we dismiss them both as ridiculous. He says, people who interpret it, referring to science, however, can be wrong. My response, as can the people who interpret the Bible. None of this has any bearing, however, on the validity of science, which directly, demonstrably, verifiably contradicts many claims in the Bible, hundreds of claims in the Bible. He says, I claim it is the Judeo-Christian God, and the Bible is the ultimate evidence for that. I respond, the Bible is the claim. The claim cannot be proof of itself. Even if that weren't a logical fallacy, your claim still means nothing. How exactly does the Bible prove itself? There's nothing special about your Bible. In fact, it's practically a carbon copy with a few annotations of the teachings of half the major ancient gods from Egypt, Greece, the Mayans, and tons more. Where's your evidence? He says, how can you apply the same logic to a being that has no physical or spatial features? I respond, you just claimed science proved the existence of God, and we were just interpreting it wrong. How can science prove God if he has no physical or spatial features? Aside from your claim being contradicted by your own Bible, if God is truly omnipotent, then surely he could simply appear to us unless he wishes to make the universe appear as if he doesn't exist, and appear as if there's a very likely and natural explanation for every natural phenomenon. He says, as human, our minds and senses are limited to the physical world, and there's no way for us to know what or who is beyond it. I respond, do you see the irony here? First, you claim to know that there is a God, and that furthermore, he is the Christian God, and that furthermore, you know what he wants you to do and how he wants you to live your life. Then, in the same breath, you tell me that none of us, as humans, can possibly know anything about God, or even what he is. Do you see how dumb that sounds? He says, I believe that such debated are very healthy and will help people to make an informed decision. I respond, then engage me in a public debate and we'll see who is correct. Eh? He says, you have yet to prove that they are ridiculous and faulty, referring to his retarded claims. I respond, I am made of broccoli. You have yet to prove that my claim is ridiculous or faulty. See, that's not how the world works. That's not how science works. You don't automatically believe everything a person says until you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're wrong. You don't believe everything written in a book until it's proven to be false. You believe only that for which there is sufficient evidence. That's how we're able to make informed decisions. That's how society progresses and people like you slowly get weeded out from the populace. That's why atheism is on the rise. People are beginning to wake up and think for themselves. I'm sorry that you're behind the curve. This is Thor defending reason so you don't have to.